The history of failure in war can be summed up in two words: too late. Too late to comprehend the deadly purpose of the potential enemy, too late in realizing the mortal danger, too late in preparedness. Distinguished members of the subcommittee, preparedness or readiness cannot be overlooked.
A U.S. Air Force official quoting General Douglas MacArthur while sounding the alarm on Capitol Hill, saying that our military is falling increasingly behind in being ready for combat operations. Let's bring in Pete Hegseth. He's a veteran of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and, of course, a Fox News contributor. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
So I was reading through some of the other things that some of the vice chiefs had to say. Another one used the words insidious decline. Also went on to say that while we're able to put our first team on the field, our backups are sadly depleted. How do we get to this point?
We got to this point because of 8 years of the Barack Obama administration where our military was sadly underfunded and underprioritized. The Budget Control Act, which emanated from the White House in 2011, known as sequestration, has capped what we can spend on our military. And so there hasn't been a proper budget process based on threats and analysis of threats in the world we live in. Instead, we're making do with what's there. It's not just too late, as was said in that testimony. It's too little. We've underfunded every one of our services, so we've got less than 50% less air squadrons today in our Air Force and our Navy. 60% of our fighter jets are grounded.
Yeah,
and in the Army, only 3 of our brigade combat teams are capable. It's
amazing. While you're discussing all that, let's bring it up so people can see it in writing, because it really is staggering when you take a look at how depleted our military is and how unprepared we are. The Defense Department budget fell by more than $100 billion from 2011 to 2014. Active Army, the smallest since World War II. Air Force, now the oldest and smallest in its history.
That's right. So it means you're going to have less of things, but also you're going to be less prepared, less training, less flight hours, less days at sea. You're also going to have, as far as maintenance, less ability to make sure your aircraft are ready to go, your ships are ready to go, your soldiers are prepared with what they need, and so you don't get the training time, and you're not at the tip of the spear the way you want to. So your elite forces are taken care of. But as was said, your bench, your backup, your conventional forces don't have the training and the readiness you need, so you can't call on them at a moment's notice, and they're not prepared to fight that unpredictable war that could be on the horizon. You never get to pick the next battle you're going to have.
It's not just the financial constraints as well. Our troops have been involved in conflicts overseas for what, 15 years now.
Sure. Which means they're battle-hardened, they understand the nature of this enemy, and there's value in that for sure. But we've also relied on the same troops and the same equipment without modernizing, without being able to do the proper maintenance, without the proper dwell times. So as a result, you've got some weariness in the force, but even though it's determined to understand this enemy. And so you haven't had the ability to rebuild. This is what Donald Trump will have to do. Much like we're basically standing on the Reagan buildup still today after the Carter years. We're going to need a Trump buildup after the Obama years to face a very dangerous world. That's what he's up to, and it sounds like the chairman of the Armed Services Committee in the House and the Senate, Thornberry and McCain, are committed to spending upwards of $100 billion more in the next budget. That's just a stopgap, frankly.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah, they're asking for $640 billion for the 2015.
Yeah, that's right. But over the last 5 or 6 years under sequestration, the defense budget has been slashed by over 20% as our demand has gone up. Yeah, as our demand has gone up, the defense budget has been slashed, and we're relying on less troops, less ships, less aircraft. So now you've got to rebuild just to meet basic demand and get on an op tempo.
That's the thing. Where does the money come from?
Well, that's a great question. That's a great question. You've got the Obama administration prioritized social services over the military. You can reform things like entitlement programs and plow that into defense, as some has advocated for. But we're $20 trillion in debt. There's no doubt that's a massive problem. So you're going to have to find cuts elsewhere. You can also find efficiencies inside the Defense Department. Thankfully, Thornberry and McCain are committed to reforming the way we acquire weapons systems, which is bloated. And, you know, Donald Trump is an expert on making sure things come in under budget and before they're due. Yeah. So if anybody can do it, it's him, with some good partners on Capitol Hill.
He has to get to work, and we have to allow him to get to work. Well, yet another reason to kind of move this along. Thank you so much, Pete.